Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Kakashi refused to train Naruto and he became his own master, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. A word before the story. Now, I have been gone for quite a while, and I know I have been slacking, but I just haven't felt a spark for writing in a while. Writing anything, really. I used to write my own stories, or even poetry, but I stopped. I've been stumped on a chapter in Stop the Future for a while, and now that I lost my beta, it's been a slower process. Not to mention I finally got off my lazy butt and got me a job. Go me. However, this job is a late night shift, and you can imagine how tired I am when I get home. Fortunately, I now found a usage for my tablet, who once sat in my house, useless. Now, I found some software I can use to write while I'm at work. So, that can help with Stop the Future, and The Disciple. Stop the Future. I just got to get over the hurdle that is the current chapter. Trying to write the fights down. Originally, I was going to make it all the way to the finals, but the chapter became too much for me. So, I think the next chapter will just involve a few fights, and then the chapter after that will finish up the exams. I wanted to do a redo of the story, but I don't think that's going to happen soon until I finish the shit I wanna finish with it. The Disciple. Hurdle to jump over. I'm trying to make it as tasteful as possible, and not cheesy. Soon it will be updated. It won't be too long. Hopefully. That's it for the update. For now, here's a new experiment FIC I have been working on for a while. Enjoy. A nugget of advice, Chapter 1. Sorry Naruto. I can't be much help to you this month. I need to concentrate solely on Sasuke. But sensei. No, Naruto. You shouldn't worry about anything other than mastering the basics. Work from there. Your chakra control still needs work, and your taijutsu, while unique, still has no substance. Until you improve in those areas, I think it's better that I focus all of my energy to Sasuke. A scowl immediately came onto the face of 13-year-old Naruto Uzumaki. Rightfully so, in the blonde boy's book. He was getting nowhere with convincing his teacher, Kakashi Hatake, to help him get stronger over the Chunin exams. He knew his odds, and despite how silly he acted sometimes, he knew Neji's abilities were higher than his own. His taijutsu was impressive, he was agile and light-footed, and he fought smart, even if he was brutal at the same time. He hated to admit that such a bastard Neji had skills that potentially could beat his, but it was true. Naruto had people harp on his abilities for years. Being on Team Kakashi made the meager level of his abilities come to light even more, and he would be the first to admit that he wasn't as godlike as he thought he was in the academy. He came off that high horse when he fought Zabuza and Haku. This recent fight with the Snake Man from the second part of the exams in the forest merely cemented that fact. He needed to improve greatly. He couldn't get over the fact that he was completely beaten by Orochimaru, even under the terrible power of the Kyuubi, the power he once called upon to kick Haku's. It didn't even matter that he had the demon's strength. Without any sort of control over it, Orochimaru threw him away like a rag doll, messed with his chakra somehow with a technique, and marked Sasuke with a terrible seal on his neck. A thing that almost killed him. Orochimaru, for what it was worth, could have killed his entire team with just looking at them. Naruto hated that feeling, the feeling of helplessness. He couldn't help but to blame himself for what happened back there. If he had stronger, if he applied himself more before in the academy or in training, none of this would have happened. After his encounter with Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, he realized there were plenty of shinobi out there who could easily beat him. He had a lot to learn, but that didn't seem too daunting of a task to him. He wanted to learn, he wanted to be stronger, not only because of his dream to one day serve as Hokage for his nation, but to protect the people that he cared about. Which is why he was getting increasingly annoyed by Kakashi's refusal to train him. Sure, he asked Kakashi at times when he could admit was inappropriate. Begging Kakashi for training every morning before the exams hadn't been fair, and he wasn't thinking about his teammates before. They needed training too. Who was he to ask for individual training with a man he only knew for a few months now? Now, however, it couldn't be any more appropriate. He was matched up with an opponent that, if he wasn't careful in his upcoming fight with him, could kick his. An opponent who was willing to kill one of his peers, and would have, if nobody hadn't stepped in time to stop it. This match also was something that could either inflate his ego, or be a massive blow to his pride. Naruto could not lose. Not when he promised the shy girl from before to avenge her. He needed to teach that son of bitch Neji that he couldn't hurt his cousin, even if he and her sides of the family had some type of beef with each other. Hinata was a nice girl. A little weird, sure, but she didn't deserve that beating that Neji gave her in the preliminaries. So he needed help, and he was reaching out to the only man he knew that could help him. So, he had to act civil. Naruto, instead of screaming, because it would only make Kakashi ignore him further, took a deep breath and calmed down before he thought of a good rebuttal for Kakashi. Sensei, I'll admit it. I need help. With a lot of stuff. Yeah, my chakra control is lacking and my taijutsu isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I'm asking for your help. I'm not asking for you to completely indulge your time into me. I get it, Sasuke needs help, especially against his opponent, but did you stop to think about me too? Naruto put a hand on his chest, adding effect to his words. I only have the Kage Bunshin. I don't have any other ninjutsu, other than the academy techniques. That's it. I need help, damn it. I'm admitting my faults, so why can't you help me? Unknown to Naruto, Kakashi understood his student's reasoning for asking him to train him for the month before the finals. He did. Naruto had been right to come out and say his faults to him, but the simple fact was to him that Naruto had said it too late. If Naruto admitted to his faults before, maybe he could have set some type of training with him. Maybe he could have made himself available to both Sasuke and Naruto, but he couldn't. Not now. It wasn't entirely Naruto's fault, not by a long shot. However, Sasuke needed someone to help him out with the cursed seal Orochimaru placed on him. Other than Jiraiya, and the Hokage himself, Kakashi was the only available one to help combat against Orochimaru's Juinjutsu. He was also the only one in this entire village that could help Sasuke develop his Sharingan along as well. No one else. He was the best teacher right now for Sasuke, and he knew it was unfair to Naruto. It was unfair because Naruto knew nothing. Other than the Kage Bunshin, what else did he have? Unlike Sasuke, Naruto didn't have much access to ninjutsu because he had no inheritance at all. Nobody to leave him scrolls of ninjutsu he could work with. Kakashi was Naruto's really only help, but the gray-haired Jonin couldn't help him. Not now. He felt bad, he really did, but it had to be done. For the gods, Sasuke was fighting someone who would have no qualms on killing him, and he needed to get Sasuke in shape. Sasuke would already be a task. Plus, he had to keep tabs on Sasuke's emotional health, and lately, it's been shot to shit with that cursed seal screwing with his mind. That promise of dark power was seductive, and every time Sasuke tapped into his chakra, Kakashi would have to worry about Orochimaru tempting him. Naruto meant well, but he had been a problem. Naruto would take much longer to help, and a month wouldn't help him, not by a long shot. For now, all Naruto could do really, is to just work on his basics and hope for the best. Naruto, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm going to be blunt with you, Naruto. Your skills are subpar, and right now, you're at a point where you're grossly underpowered. Kakashi felt like in telling Naruto that, but to him, that was the truth. Naruto's face immediately lit up with two things Kakashi predicted he would see: anger and disappointment. He was half pissed at the older man, and half disappointed with him. Under all of that, he saw a small spark of underlying contempt as well. It had been a brief second of seeing it, but Kakashi saw it. He wasn't blaming the boy at all. He would probably be the same if Minato-sensei had done the same to him when he was a genin. However, Kakashi wouldn't leave without telling him some advice. But you don't need incredible skills to win in the exams. Wait, what? Naruto's expression bloomed with confusion. How can I win the Chunin exams without having ninjutsu? What is the point of these exams, Naruto? Kakashi immediately stopped Naruto from blurting out an answer. Think about it for a second. Heck, you can take the rest of the month and think it over. What's the point of asking me that question if you want me to think about it all the way to next month? How can I win the exams thinking about a question? Naruto's brow furrowed in annoyance, trying his best to find the truth. After a minute thinking about an answer to Kakashi's riddle, he threw his hands in frustration. Arg, forget it, I'm done asking you anything. You're not going to help, so I guess I'll figure it out on myself. You will. You're not as stupid as people say you are, Naruto. If you think it over a little instead of jumping to conclusions, you'll get it. Kakashi put an encouraging smile on his face, under the mask. Now, I actually do have someone that can help you for the remainder of the month. Someone that can help you go over the basics. Naruto still didn't see how learning how to do the basics better was going to help him beat Neji, an advanced genin with the ability to beat anyone in the tournament. Nonetheless, the blonde nodded solemnly. Further arguing with the man would do more damage than it could help. All right then. No more arguing or asking me who you'll be getting. The gray-haired ninja asked, unable to hide the confusion in his voice. Naruto did an uncharacteristically deep sigh. Then, the boy shrugged and sent his teacher a flat look. I don't really care anymore. Kakashi sent Naruto a worried look. Obviously, the blonde was hurt, but he wasn't showing it. He's suppressing his feelings. I know I pissed him off. Big time. He knew he would have to make it up to Naruto, so he smiled again to the boy. I promise to show you a few techniques that can help you later on in the future. That's why I need you to go over the basics, Naruto. They help build up a good foundation. Naruto nodded again, though it was without any real vigor. Yes, sensei. That tone again. Kakashi knew that he really had to make up to the boy. Perhaps if Naruto got better chakra control over the month, he would help go over nature transformation with him and his team. Naruto was a lover of ninjutsu techniques. He was sure he would enjoy learning his elemental affinity. Cheer up, kid. Kakashi ruffled his student's yellow hair with his gloved hand. Trust me, this is for the best. Now, this person I have in mind to help you for the month has much more experience as teacher than I am. He's trained a whole slew of students before I accepted the position of Jonin sensei. Really? Naruto had to raise his eyebrow at that. Who did you have in mind? Come with me and find out. Kakashi waved at Naruto, gesturing the blonde to follow him. Naruto did a small shrug and followed Kakashi into the hallway of the tower where him and the survivors of the preliminaries fought. Here he is. Kakashi gestured his hand forward to point at Naruto's temporary teacher for the month. Naruto rose his eyebrow, his face staring at a man with the standard navy blue long-sleeve shirt that he's seen several Konoha shinobi on the rank Chunin or Jonin have on. He had a blue bandana-like Hittite on his head, black shades, and a polite smile on his face. Hello, Naruto. Naruto immediately recognized this man, and couldn't help but to scowl. This, Kakashi-sensei. This is the person you got me. Ebisu and Naruto had history with each other. The first time he met the older man was when he met Konohamaru, spent an afternoon with him and taught him the basics of the Henge no Jutsu and the Warok no Jutsu as well. Ebisu had been one of the many adults back in the village who only looked at Naruto as if he was just the Kyuubi and nothing else. Not only that, but he only viewed Konohamaru as the grandson of the Sandaime, and nothing else. Only calling him, honorable grandson, and nothing else. He only saw them as those titles, and not as individuals. He was someone Naruto wouldn't even want to associate with. Despite being lauded as some sort of super teacher by Kakashi-sensei, it didn't change the fact that Ebisu was a narrow-minded man. Is there something wrong with Ebisu, Naruto? Kakashi calmly asked, pulling out his signature Ika Ika book. You damn Skippy. I met this guy before. Naruto pointed to Ebisu indignantly. This guy is a total loser. He fell completely for my Haremu no Jutsu. Kakashi narrowed his eyes in confusion at the other man, who was starting to look panicked. What's the Haremu no Jutsu? Ebisu laughed it off, rubbing his shoulder nervously. Just a silly technique. Ahahaha. Naruto-kun. Ebisu turned to face the boy. If you're quiet, I'll teach you a jutsu. Whatever. Naruto muttered, still irritated. It was too late to bother arguing anyway. He was not going to get his way, so he had to accept his fate. Whatever the man would teach him, he would take, and that's it. After that, he wouldn't need his help. If it was really just the basics they were going to teach him, the fight against Neji would be 10 times harder. Let's just get this done. I'll catch up to you guys later. Kakashi waved his hand at the two ninjas. Good luck, Naruto, and think about my question. He then disappeared in a cloud of smoke, the technique Naruto recognized as the Shunshin no Jutsu. Naruto harumphed, stupid Kakashi-sensei. He then glared at his newer teacher. So, are we going to learn something or what? An eyebrow was visible from Ebisu's face. Is there something wrong with you and Kakashi-kun, Naruto-kun? The yellow-haired boy shrugged. Nothing much. Just Kakashi-sensei decided to ditch me for Sasuke. Ditch you. You know, focus on training Sasuke for a month and not spare me a bit of his time to teach me too. Naruto explained. Maybe he is doing it for the right reason, Naruto-kun. Naruto scoffed. What the hell could be the reason? Ebisu put a finger on his chin. Well, Sasuke-kun is the last Uchiha of Konohagakure, a wielder of the Dojutsu Sharingan, and needs someone to help him with it. Since your sensei is the only one in the village who also has the Sharingan, Kakashi is the only one suited for such a job. Therefore, he needs to tutor Sasuke for the month. Naruto could understand that. He really did. However, his anger was getting the best of him again. Yeah, but why couldn't he also help me too? He's the laziest teacher I ever known. He hasn't really taught my team anything. No ninjutsu, no taijutsu or genjutsu. Nothing. All we learned from him are the foundations of good teamwork and chakra control. I mean, that's good stuff and all, but knowing how to work together as a team isn't going to help me defeat Neji. The old man sent Naruto an understanding gaze. You think your sensei is favoring Sasuke over you, Naruto nodded. But you could not be any further from the truth. Huh, what do you mean? Ebisu shook his head. Kakashi does not favor Sasuke over you or your other teammate. He is simply looking after him. For what? Sasuke can take care of himself. Naruto snorted, with a frown on his face. You are incorrect yet again. Sasuke needs help. More help than you. The Juinjutsu he received from Orochimaru could possibly mess with his mind, Naruto-kun. Kakashi-kun needs to pay close attention to him. Not to mention the newer influx of power could possibly bring Sasuke over to Orochimaru's side, Ebisu said in his head with a bead of sweat appearing on his cheek. Orochimaru is after him. That is why he placed the seal on Sasuke. He wants him. But why? Why Sasuke? He's just an ordinary ninja, was Naruto's rebuttal. The older man however shook his head. He is a symbol. The last of the Uchiha, the last of the Sharingan users, and the only one who is vulnerable. There are two other users of the Sharingan, someone who is not an Uchiha, and one is a missing nin traitor and mass murderer. However, both are dangerous shinobi. Sasuke is a growing ninja. You may think he's safe inside the village, and he was for the past 12 years, but these exams showed how easily Orochimaru could infiltrate this village. Sasuke is no longer safe now that he's been bitten. He is also Orochimaru's key to the dojutsu. Ebisu reasoned, readjusting his black specks on the bridge of his nose. It was a habit he had picked up a long time when perturbed. Orochimaru could not get Sasuke. That would be bad news. Naruto took a few seconds to digest the information before nodding begrudgingly. It made sense and he admitted that it was a large part of him that was annoyed by Kakashi because the Jonin never even gave him or Sakura any sort of second glance. Instead, he was always paying attention to what Sasuke was doing. Even before the Chunin exams. He couldn't lie and say it wasn't out of some level of envy, but it was also, to him, very wrong for a teacher to favor any of his students. Not when the students were grossly underpowered, as Kakashi put it. If anything, he should have been helping them out even more. In the end, Naruto agreed with Ebisu's logic. He didn't like it, and it hardly made him feel better, but he understood what his Jonin sensei was doing. He just wished Kakashi sensei paid attention to them before. Maybe if he actually did train them right after the mission to Nami no Kuni, he wouldn't feel so weak and helpless. Maybe he wouldn't have Ebisu of all people training him for the month. But he couldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. Kakashi did leave him Ebisu, despite being the very same man who fell for one of his weakest moves in his arsenal. The man was a Tokubetsu Jonin, right? That had to count for something. He, at least, could respect the title. Hey, Ebisu sensei, Naruto appropriately called the man, since the man would be tutoring him for the next month. What do you plan to teach me for the month? What do you think you need help with, Naruto-kun? The man asked him. The tone seemed genuinely curious and wondering. Naruto found this strange. Not many teachers would ask him that. He knew how Ebisu acted towards him as well. He treated him like he was crap. The fact that he was gentle with Naruto didn't quite make sense, but in the end, he didn't think about it too much. Instinctively, Naruto almost shouted out, "Badass ninjutsu." But he knew he had to think realistically here. Naruto thought it over, and put a finger on his chin. He found an answer after thinking it over. I guess I need help with my chakra control. Kakashi-sensei always tells me that's one of the biggest things I need help with. I think I need some ninjutsu as well. Something offensive and can defeat Neji in the next round. Anything else that could help me? Ebisu nodded, accepting the answer. I plan to first work on helping you gain better chakra control before starting on anything else. Kakashi-kun stated you needed help with your control, and you basically confirmed it. Naruto nodded, looking somewhat crestfallen. However, should you prove to get past chakra control, I suppose we can work on you learning one or two ninjutsu over the break. Naruto grinned widely, getting excited. Alright, let's get to it. Ebisu nodded, follow me. We're going to go to a place where we can work on your chakra control. I assume you know the tree climbing exercise. Yeah, I mastered that way back. Very good. That makes this much easier. We will work on walking on water. Walking on water. Naruto quirked his eyebrow as they started walking out the building of the central tower of the Forest of Death. Is that the next chakra control exercise? Yes, it is. I'll explain more. Right now, we are going back to the village. Ebisu stared at Naruto for hours as they worked on the basics of the water walking exercise. Unlike before when he met the boy, where he was loud and boisterous, this Naruto he was looking over was focused and serious. He worked at his task for an hour, in silence, only asking if he was doing it right or wrong. Sometimes, he asked for advice but otherwise he worked at it alone, without Ebisu saying much. Naruto has potential, Ebisu started to reason in his head. He taught Konohamaru, his current charge, how to use the Henge no Jutsu, a technique he was struggling to grasp in school. Despite showing him such an uncouth technique, something the blonde boy dubbed as the Waroke no Jutsu, the Uzumaki showed the younger Sarutobi how to use the Henge in order to use his perverse variation. Something good came out of it. Reviewing that unpleasant memory, Ebisu seen something. Naruto was an innovator. Off of both the transformation and the shadow clone techniques, he created a technique that was effective against certain opponents, heck, it was effective against him. Despite it being only a distraction technique, the Haremu no Jutsu was still a sign that Naruto did have potential. He spent hours devising such a technique. He had the chakra to do so, and the imagination as well. If he focused, and put his mind to it, he could accomplish a lot. Something like that couldn't be ignored, even to someone like him. Soon, Ebisu started thinking that training Naruto for the Chunin exams wouldn't be such a chore. Naruto arduously worked at the water surface walking exercise for hours but did not move past standing on the surface shakily before falling in a minute later. Arg, why can't I do it? I'm doing what you're telling me. I'm trying to change my chakra flow constantly over the water, but it isn't working. Naruto growled, climbing out the stream of water they worked on in the village. Ebisu noticed it as well. He didn't not understand why Naruto was falling in. He was doing the technique properly from what he seen. He frowned, and thought it over for a minute. Naruto-kun, are you still suffering from your battle with Kiba Inuzuka? Naruto shook his head. Kiba did nothing too bad to me. Not to my chakra anyway. Although, Naruto frowned, replaying a memory in his head. I did have a run-in with that snake bastard in the Forest of Death before. Snake bastard, Orochimaru, I presume. How amusing of a nickname. Ebisu thought dryly in his head, before his eyes widened widely behind his glasses in realization. Wait, is it possible that Orochimaru did something to him in the Forest of Death to cause his chakra control to have complications? Did Orochimaru do something to you? Anything at all? Yeah, he did some weird technique on me. He called it the Gogyo Fuin and he used it to knock me out. Naruto, let me see your stomach. I need to see something. Ebisu said seriously, immediately recognizing the name of the technique. Naruto looked at him queerly. Why do you need to see my stomach? The hell? That's weird, man. I need to see your seal on your stomach. Ebisu said in a hushed tone, rolling his eyes at the teen's suggestion. Naruto looked at him again like he said something very odd, but he obeyed. He took off his already wet t-shirt and allowed the man to see his torso. Now, draw some chakra so your seal can reveal itself. Naruto nodded, clapped his hands and drew some chakra forth. It was somewhat hard molding chakra to do it, but he accomplished it. While Ebisu was not a master of Fuinjutsu, he had at least known enough to recognize how the Yondaime's seal looked like. He also knew that the name and purpose of Orochimaru's technique. Naruto's seal, The Hake no Fuin Shiki was there but was surrounded with 5 weird kanji symbols. Metal, wood, fire, water, and earth, the purple kanji red. As Naruto channel chakra, they glowed brightly, a sign the boy's chakra and the symbols were connected together. He must have tampered with your chakra control. With that seal, a normal person could barely channel their chakra. I am surprised you even have enough chakra to keep going. We have been practicing this exercise for hours. How could something go unsaid? Did the boy not feel something weird with chakra? How could he have not known? Still, was this entirely his fault? Didn't anyone check on him, like his teacher, or was the attention only given to Sasuke and his seal? This sealing technique was made to seal away chakra, and even seal away the Kyuubi's chakra away, he was betting, or else, why would this seal be placed directly on Naruto's navel? Orochimaru truly was a scary individual. Ebisu shook his head in annoyance. Naruto, we are going to stop training for a while. Naruto looked nervous, his eyes panicking silently. Am I in some sort of trouble? No, you are going to be fine. The man in blue sighed. Just be relieved we figured out that something was wrong with your chakra in the first place. If left unchecked, this seal could have potentially killed you. Naruto gulped. What the hell did that snake shithead do to him? How are we going to get the seal off? Can you do it, Ebisu-sensei? Ebisu shook his head. Unfortunately, my knowledge of sealing techniques is limited, Naruto-kun. However, we shall take this to the Sandaime Hokage. His knowledge of Fuinjutsu can solve this problem. Alright, Naruto said, and grabbed for his damp black t-shirt, but did not put it back on. He opted to instead put on his dryer jacket. It is good that you came to find me, Ebisu-kun. The old man smiled in his office suite, inspecting Naruto's seal with a shrewd eye. Ah yes, a classical application of the Gogyo Fuin. A technique I used many times in the First Shinobi World War, and a technique I taught all 3 of my students. This is definitely the work of Orochimaru. Luckily, I can unseal your chakra and undo the damage. Really? Yes. Thanks, old man. Naruto grinned, happy that he can get back to his training soon. The Sandaime nodded, and applied the lightest amount of chakra to his fingertips, his fingers glowing blue with chakra. Ebisu paid attention to it, looking at the similar kanji that lit up in his fingers. This is the Gogyo Kaiin, the counterpart technique to the Fuinjutsu placed on you before by my student. This will allow you to access your chakra once again easily. Hold still so I can apply it. Got you, Naruto said with a boisterous grin, but unfortunately was not prepared for Sarutobi's strong strike to his stomach. He groaned loudly as the old man slammed his fingertips into his stomach, and almost fell back, if it wasn't for Ebisu. The older man caught him, holding Naruto firmly by the arms. Holy crap, what was that? The Hokage almost looked sheepish. I am sorry, Naruto-kun. It seems I underestimated my own strength. Still, it was necessary. Now you can continue training in peace. The old man sat down back in his chair. He sent a slight nod towards them, and said, if there isn't anything else, I bid you farewell. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Ebisu said with a smile, and bowed to his leader. Naruto sent a small nod towards the Sandaime as his thanks. Naruto pumped his arm happily, and was about to leave the room as Ebisu started to walk towards the door. Naruto then stopped, and looked back towards his grandfatherly figure. Hey, Sarutobi Jiji, do you know the point of the Chunin exams? Sarutobi raised his eyebrow, surprised at the question. Why are you asking? Because of Kakashi-sensei. Naruto frowned at the mention of his teacher. I asked him for training for the exams, but he told me that I didn't need to know a whole bunch of techniques to win. He told me to think it over the break and then answer him. Ebisu sent Naruto a glance. So, that's why he's been quiet today. He's been trying to find the answer to Kakashi's question. The Hokage knew the answer, and he knew why Kakashi had asked Naruto the question. It would get Naruto to think carefully if he thought about it to himself. Your teacher has given you the question for you to solve, Naruto-kun. I cannot, with good conscience, completely give you the answer to your question. However, Sarutobi's eyes twinkled with some mirth. I can give you some words of advice. The exams are more than being a tournament of fighting. While you can win the whole tournament, that doesn't guarantee you a promotion to Chunin. How can that be though? If you can beat everybody in the tournament, how can you not be Chunin material? Naruto's frown gotten deeper, trying to figure out the answer. Just because you have the fighting skills of a Chunin, doesn't mean you actually deserve becoming a Chunin, came from Ebisu, who stepped into the chat again. Everybody has the potential to become a Chunin in the exams, but that doesn't mean they all can become one. The exams are much more than fighting. In order to become a Chunin, you must act like one, and think like one. Thus, you must know what it is to be Chunin. Sometimes, there's more than one way than surviving a fight. Naruto frowned, wanting nothing more than to throw his hands up in frustration. This isn't really advice. It's more like a riddle than advice. Like all that, underneath crap that Kakashi-sensei spews. The Hokage chuckled at Naruto's unabashed attitude. It is because it is a good quote, my boy. Look underneath. Sometimes, something that seems like it only has one purpose, serves many. You have plenty of time to figure it out. Sleep it over, come back to it after a few days. Sarutobi then took a puff from his pipe. But I know you, Naruto. You will not sleep until you think you have it figured out. I have no doubt you will have figured out soon enough. Naruto beamed at his grandfatherly figure and uncharacteristically bowed deeply. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi was surprised, but smiled nevertheless, got up from his chair again and ruffled Naruto's blonde hair. You are welcome. You are also welcome to ask me about anything anytime, boy. Hey, I will. Well, Ebisu-sensei, Naruto turned to the blue-wearing Tokubetsu Jonin with his black shades. Let's continue training. Ebisu smiled. While I admire your exuberance, Naruto-kun, I have decided that we are going to take a break for the rest of today. It has been a long day and you just came from the tournament. We will begin again tomorrow when you are fresh and anew. Naruto pouted, but he understood. Okay, Ebisu-sensei. If I may, I would like to have a word with you, Ebisu-kun. The Hokage said, now settled firmly in his seat again. Ebisu nodded. Yes, my lord. Naruto-kun, I will see you tomorrow. Sure thing. And the blonde left. So, how do you evaluate Naruto so far, Ebisu-kun? In my humble opinion, I think Naruto-kun has to shape up fast, or else he will not be able to defeat Neji Hyuga in the Chunin exams, much less be considered a Chunin. Ebisu pronounced, trying to be as blunt as he could, without showing any ill intent of the boy's skills. I suspect now that his chakra is not restricted, he will be able to easily do the water walking exercise, but other than chakra control exercises, and the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto-kun doesn't have a lot to work with. Ah, but you are wrong in that sense, my boy. He does have a lot to work with, preferably with the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. After all, despite Naruto-kun having the technique for months in his possession, he has yet to figure out that his clones can be used more than fighting tools. Ebisu's eyes widened in realization. Are you suggesting I should tell him about the secret of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu? Is that not a little dangerous? Most ninja cannot even exploit it. And why not? Sarutobi snorted, putting his pipe in his mouth again, before taking a small puff from it. Smoke billowed out of his mouth as he exhaled. It is a wonder how Naruto-kun has not figured out that he can receive memories and experience from his dispelled clones yet, or why Kakashi has not told him the secret of Naruto's most used technique. With him knowing that, his training can be increased exponentially. It is also perfect since Naruto has extremely huge amounts of chakra for his age. The danger is extremely cut down. Do you know how much clones the boy can make on a whim? Several hundreds, and even then, these clones still have a decent amount of chakra to use. I believe by the time of the exams, he will be more than ready for his opponent. Sarutobi smiled at Ebisu, putting his pipe on his table. Originally, I was going to have someone else take over. However, due to him not seeking out Naruto like I wanted, and getting sidetracked by his own activities, I think you can take over for him for the month. He can see to Naruto after the exams. With you as Naruto's teacher, he'll be more than ready. I am counting on you to shape him up quickly. Ebisu nodded, also thinking to himself how many things he could teach the boy. He could review for a few days on chakra control, then move on with elemental training, something that could take years, could be condensed to a matter of weeks. Finally, he could help him out a little on taijutsu, though it would not be a big focus, because learning a fighting style or improving on taijutsu took months that Naruto did not have. Besides, Neji already had superior taijutsu thanks to years of training. Focusing on teaching Naruto anything like that was pointless. And he knew how many clones the boy could make now. Heck, he even had first-hand experience, and he had experienced the perverse technique that followed too. How uncomfortable of an experience, Ebisu thought to himself, flushing at the memories. Reminder of his weakness for women aside, the boy had potential. He would draw it out, and it would be a no-brainer. As a former Chunin instructor for 5 years, a Tokubetsu Jonin for 5 more, and having experience in training many youthful shinobi, he would draw such power out this young man too. However, what was so surprising was the complete confidence the Hokage had in Naruto. It was almost startling. It was like the Hokage knew Naruto would grow and become a great shinobi. Ebisu would have to judge for himself. Ebisu, after being pleased with Naruto's progress with chakra control for the day, stopped Naruto from doing anything. That is enough for the day, Naruto-kun. We are finished for now. Naruto nodded, dispelled the 2 clones he created to help him with the exercise, and felt his chakra returning to him. A small burst of memories as well came with the chakra. The blonde-haired boy was starting to get used to the rush of memories his clones gave him after they popped, especially after hours of training. How he didn't realize the clones gave him memories before was beyond him. However, the change in pace would be great to Naruto. Hours of training with his chakra control became days, and Naruto had done this for a week. It felt like forever that he was doing the water walking exercise. There was little to gain now that he has moved on the water, actually sparred a little on the water with his clones, in the hopes to simulate a real battle, and stayed on the water for extended amounts of time. All it could do was strengthen his pools of chakra, to which they were already strong enough. The blonde-haired boy felt he had a good grip on his control now, and wanted to move on to something else. He had voiced this opinion to Ebisu a few days ago, but his temporary teacher had stated Naruto still had the week to finish working on his control. The Jonin didn't want Naruto to move on from training his chakra. Naruto felt compelled to try again today. After all, it was the end of the week. So, Sensei, what are we going to do next? We're doing chakra control, but I wanna know what we're going to do next. Not exactly subtle in his question, Naruto nevertheless felt like he needed to ask. I think it is about time to move on and put your new handle on your chakra control to use. Ebisu smiled, seeing Naruto's face light up in glee. Yes, it is time to work on some new ninjutsu for you to learn. Tomorrow, I will see how much you know, and gauge from there where I want to take your training at. Naruto did a silent cheer in his head. Instead of the dull things like practicing his chakra control, he could learn exhilarating things in ninjutsu. Learning more ninjutsu would kick so much butt. Naruto smiled, and cheered. Right. I see you then, Ebisu-sensei. Farewell, Naruto-kun. Ebisu waved, then disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto recognized that technique immediately, rubbing his chin. I've just gotta get Ebisu-sensei to teach me how to use that technique one of these days. Naruto grinned, walking away from the training grounds and back into town. Already, he was progressing quickly. Pretty soon, he would be twice as strong as he was before. Chunin exams, here I come. I can't wait to show up Neji's, hell, even Sasuke while I'm at it. Sasuke was a potential opponent after all. If he did beat Neji, he would have to worry about others as well. Gonna show Sakura-chan I'm so cool. A pity he could not show Sakura, or anyone for that matter, any of his ninjutsu before the match. Ebisu stressed that Naruto needed to keep the element of surprise on his side, otherwise potential opponents could get information on him in order to counter him. It made sense seeing that 4 of his potential opponents, Shikamaru, Sasuke, Shino, and that shithead Neji, were denizens of Konohagakure. Ebisu had promised him that Naruto would learn ninjutsu before the month's end. Ebisu stressed a powerful shinobi kept his trump card to himself until the optimal time to use it. Nothing trivial like everyday life affairs are to show off up a person. And Ebisu was right, for what it was worth. Naruto personally didn't like it, but he was right. He needed to not show off to anyone. A ninja should save his best tricks for last. Plus, now Naruto thought about, there wasn't really anything he could show. Yeah, so what that he could walk on water perfectly, and fight on it. That wouldn't help in a place like the Chunin exams, where they would be fighting in a stadium. Not to mention, Sasuke Tem isn't even here. Naruto muttered, thinking about his troublesome teammate and rival. His eyebrows furrowed, and a frown appeared on his face. He's out training with Kakashi-sensei. It still hurt knowing his teacher refused to help him out when he needed it the most. After all, he was in the Chunin exams as well, wasn't he? He needed Kakashi-sensei's help shaping up. He hated how he felt in the forest of death. If the man who attacked them, Orochimaru, wanted to kill them, he could have easily done so. Now that he thought about it, what about Sakura? Just because she wasn't in the exams didn't mean she didn't need any training either. She needed a bunch of training as well. Even how awesome she was. That was messed up, and it annoyed Naruto. The irrational part of him screamed out, once, that his teacher was playing favorites, but he knew that it was much deeper than that. He could see why Sasuke would need a lot of help. Gaara didn't look like anybody you messed around with. Kakashi was also the only one that could teach Sasuke how to use his Sharingan as well because he had one Sharingan eye. Then he could see Ebisu's reasoning as well. Sasuke was not just the Uchiha boy he knew. He was the last of his clan. He was a symbol, and ultimately, a target. That bastard, Orochimaru, would stop at nothing to get the boy's Sharingan. Sasuke was the only living person who Orochimaru could obtain it from as well, and compared to Orochimaru, Sasuke was a kitten. The snake bastard could easily take Sasuke, kill him, and take his eyes. However, from what Naruto got from Ebisu, Orochimaru wanted Sasuke for himself, to take him, and to bring him over to his side. Sway him away with power. Admittedly, Naruto realized that it had been a good tactic. Sasuke always talked about his wishes to get stronger and better. It paralleled with Naruto's own desires to become a great shinobi, but Sasuke never talked about getting stronger to serve his village in good ways, like becoming a Jonin or Anbu. In fact, now that Naruto thought about it, Sasuke only wanted to be in these exams to test himself, to fight strong opponents, and gauge how strong he had gotten. Unlike Naruto, who wanted to become a Chunin, to get missions to help him climb the ladder to become a Hokage, Sasuke seemed less interested in becoming a Chunin and more about obtaining power. Then, he remembered back in the mission back in Nami no Kuni. Naruto frowned thinking about that one, remembering how close Team Kakashi came towards death. He remembered how Sasuke almost died, and his wishes for Naruto to kill a person who had plagued him for a long time. His own brother, Itachi, the source of all Sasuke's ambitions to become a terribly strong shinobi. Believing he would die, Sasuke asked Naruto to kill Itachi for him. That was all taken back when Sasuke actually lived. He acted like he never said anything to Naruto about anything. Not that Naruto ventured to try to get Sasuke to speak about it. It was a touchy subject. Naruto hadn't done much research on Sasuke's older brother, but he knew Itachi Uchiha was a missing nin, wanted for the genocide of the Uchiha clan. If that was true, then talking to Sasuke about it, who was always so standoffish and aloof, was a big no-no. He would get nothing out of it. Still, he could understand. Sasuke's own brother killed everyone in Sasuke's clan. A feat that Naruto couldn't even imagine. How could anyone kill all those people, and be okay with that? Them all being family. If Naruto knew how it was to have a brother, and have his brother betray him, he would probably hate him as much as Sasuke hated Itachi. Sometimes, Naruto could hear Sasuke whisper his name under his breath, when he thought no one was hearing, in a spiteful, almost obsessive tone. Naruto had no idea what was the deal with his rival teammate, but perhaps it was good Kakashi-sensei was looking after Sasuke. He didn't like how him and Sakura-chan got ignored because of it, but perhaps he could not exactly fault his sensei for attending to Sasuke. Especially if Sasuke was as bad as Ebisu-sensei said he was. He didn't want Sasuke doing something hectic if Orochimaru really was someone who could get in the Uchiha boy's head. Bah. Worrying about something just wasn't his style, Naruto decided. If anything, he should be worrying about getting some chow in before the night began. All that training and burning up energy put his hunger up to high gear. Still, Naruto frowned. What does Kakashi-sensei's words mean? How do I become a Chunin without winning the tournament? He wondered out loud, the silence being his own answer. He found his trip back to the village, and his dinner at Ichiraku Ramen strangely quiet and thoughtful. Ayame Ne-chan and Tuki Gigi asked him what was wrong later that night, but they could do nothing much to bring him out of his thoughts. Not even food could do it. The day after. Today will be a shorter day, Naruto-kun. I have other duties to attend to. My training of young Konohamaru-sama hasn't stopped now that I have accepted to train you, was what Ebisu told him when they started their training session. I hope to first see how many ninjutsu you have at your disposal, see your chakra affinity, and have you started on working with your element. Chakra affinity? Naruto questioned. I never heard of that phrase before. You have not. Ebisu raised an eyebrow. It entails back to nature transformation. Naruto gave him a blank look. The instructor sighed, a little in irritation for Naruto's ignorance. Nature transformation is an advanced form of chakra control where one molds and defines their chakra into their preassigned chakra nature. In layman's terms, it simply means changing one's chakra to emulate an element. Fire, water, earth, lightning, or wind. Oh, Naruto's face lit up in realization. So, that's like using Kaden or Suiten techniques. Yes. Ebisu did a small smile. Everyone has a different chakra nature, where their chakra is naturally attuned to an element. A demonstration perhaps will help you understand even more. Slowly, Ebisu did a small set of hand seals. Naruto watched curiously as Ebisu formed a small fire release technique where it involved summoning a small fireball in his hand. This is my natural chakra nature, fire. My chakra naturally is attuned to fire, and thus, I have an affinity for Kaden techniques. Hot damn. So, I'm going to be learning how to use elemental techniques. Kick. Naruto said excitedly, jumping up and down while cheering loudly, yes. Settle yourself, Naruto-kun. Ebisu frowned, finding Naruto's use for profanity a little off-putting. This is not something you'll get down in a day or two. You may have an easier time learning techniques from this path of ninjutsu, but learning and developing techniques takes some time doing since you are getting used to using your chakra in that state. This is a skill many people take years developing and mastering. The man hid away a small smile. He exaggerated a little bit with this. While what he said was quite true, it wouldn't be so bad for Naruto since the technique he had been provided with before could help him with training quite a bit. A lot of shinobi did not have the luxury using the Kage Bunshin in that way. Many could not manage making more than one clone without suffering some sort of ill effect. However, Ebisu had accomplished making Naruto annoyed. Naruto's reaction was predictable. Years. I don't have years to figure this stuff out. I got only to the end of this month to get stronger. What's the point of showing me something I can't learn now? Fortunately, you do have the Kage Bunshin to use to condense some of this training down to simply a month. Ebisu admitted, deciding to stop teasing Naruto for now. It was amusing seeing Naruto get riled up, but he had to remind Naruto not to always take things at face value. I told you to not show so many emotions in battle, Naruto-kun. Enemies might use your anger to just make you trip up. Do not believe everything everyone says is truth. Naruto blushed in embarrassment, realizing that he did get incensed fast because of that. Sorry, sensei. You're right. Okay. So we're doing this thing now. You're going to show me my element. The Tokubetsu Jonin pulled something out his pocket. Naruto realized it was a piece of white paper. Instead of asking off the fly what the hell it was, like Naruto wanted to do, the boy waited until Ebisu provided an explanation. This is a special paper that reacts when a person channels chakra into it. The following reaction from the chakra shows what chakra nature you have. If the paper ignites and becomes ash, you have fire-type chakra. If the paper cuts in half, you have wind. If the paper becomes damp, you have water. If the paper wrinkles up, you have lightning. Finally, if the paper becomes dirt and crumbles away, you have earth. Got you. Naruto nodded, understanding what he had to do. Gimme the paper. Ebisu handed it over, and Naruto held the paper up with his two thumbs. Naruto furrowed his brow in light concentration and focused his eyes to the paper. Then, he applied the smallest amount of chakra into the paper, knowing going overboard with it would be a waste. The reaction of the paper was instantaneous. What was white paper was transmuted into brown dirt. Naruto wiped his hands of the brown grime and looked at his teacher expectantly. I guess my element is earth. Ebisu looked in interest, grasping his chin with his fingers. Interesting. I expected more of an offensive element like fire for you. A major of Konohagakure's forces have fire as their affinity. Nonetheless, this does not make it difficult to train you. I am proficient in 3 chakra natures myself. Really? Which? I thought you said you only could use fire. I said fire was my original chakra affinity. The Jonin corrected his student. Many Jonin as myself can use more than one element, and I can use fire, earth, and water release. Naruto whistled. I wanna use more than one element one day. You can. It could take years to do so. Knowing a few ninjutsu in an element is one thing, but to master it means you can use ninjutsu in the element almost without thinking about it. Naruto frowned slightly, thinking a bit back when Ebisu said he could use 3 elements. Sensei, if it's not so rude to ask, but I've got a question for you. The bandana wearing Jonin shrugged. Ask away. You said you're good in 3 elements, right? The man nodded, prompting Naruto to continue his lines of questions. So, if you're good at ninjutsu, how come you're not a full-fledged Jonin? A good question. Well, while it is true I am proficient in ninjutsu, and my chakra is slightly above average, I lack Jonin level skills in taijutsu, or genjutsu. I also am one of the best tutors of Konohagakure. Years before as a Chunin teacher, teaching the youth at the academy, has helped with that. Ebisu nodded, admitting to his faults very easily, not in the slightest insulted by Naruto's question. He withheld in a sigh, however. The man thought the question Naruto had for him would related to his secret affinity for literature written by Jiraiya-sama. The mischievous little scamp. Naruto nodded, absorbing the information in. Pretty cool that he was proficient in ninjutsu, something Naruto aimed to one day be the best in. Out of all 3 of the main class of ninja combat, ninjutsu was something Naruto found himself enjoying. Taijutsu was a close second, but ninjutsu was where it was at. Alrighty. So, what's next again? Show me the amount of ninjutsu you know. Ebisu then moved a bit away for Naruto to have some breathing space to use any technique. Okay. Naruto quickly did a hand seal and demonstrated first the Henge no Jutsu, or rather a variation. One Ebisu has come to know and despise. How's this, Ebisu-sensei? Naruto cooed in his Warok no Jutsu form, his voice imitating a woman's. That earned him a punch to the back of his head from a now irritated Ebisu, who rushed up to Naruto. Ow! The boy exclaimed, returning to his normal 13-year-old form while holding his head. What did I do? Be serious. Ebisu yelled, trying his best to hide his blush, but failing miserably as Naruto mischievously smiled his way. A simple transformation would have been just fine. Haha. Sorry Ebisu-sensei. Naruto apologized, though it sounded very insincere to Ebisu. The man's right eyebrow twitched. Alright, I can do Henge, Warok. Fei. That technique is hardly useful. The man scoffed and moved back to the space he occupied before. Hey, it is too. Naruto protested childishly, watching Ebisu's retreating form. It worked on tons of people. You, Sarutobi Jiji, that earned him another smack to his head. Ow. Do not address Sarutobi-sama so informally. Ebisu barked, turning his head to glare at Naruto. Plus, I do not believe you. As if Hokage-sama would fall for such a trick. The blonde-haired teen snorted. Try reading the report with that Mizuki Tem in it. Be serious, Naruto. My time is short, as is my patience. Ebisu warned, his frown deepening. Show me your other techniques. Naruto sighed, a little pout on his face. Fine. A single hand seal later, and Naruto showed next the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, with producing one clone. I can do the regular and Taju version. A small grin lit up on his face. As you know. As I do know. Ebisu admitted with a sigh, remembering the memory of Naruto using the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, in conjunction with Naruto's perverted version of the Henge no Jutsu. What else? Kawirami no Jutsu. Switching positions with Ebisu, who blinked in slight confusion until the effect ended, Naruto grinned. I can switch with full body targets easily. Hey, interesting. Switching with humanoid targets was a little hard than doing such with smaller objects. Then distance was added in, and the technique got a bit harder. It took much chakra to do so, for most genin and some chunin anyway. So, it was somewhat impressive Naruto had managed it. Not exactly awe-inspiring since the boy had a large amount of chakra at his disposal, but it was something. Not a problem for Naruto since he had quite a lot of chakra to begin with it. Do you have any offensive ninjutsu? Naruto frowned a little. No, I don't. I suppose it is time to fix that. Ebisu smiled. Well, I am satisfied with what I seen. Meet me back here tomorrow at our usual time, and we will go over with the first exercise with working with your chakra nature. More exercises? I thought from here you can start learning your affinities jutsu. You must first get used to being able to mold and convert your chakra into the element first. Do not worry. Once you learn the steps, you will be able to start learning some ninjutsu. Alright, sensei. Naruto pumped his fist. Tomorrow's going to kick some butt. Ebisu beamed, finding Naruto's excitement contagious. See you soon, Naruto-kun. Ebisu disappeared in a plume of smoke. Naruto pouted, and reminded himself to get his temporary teacher to teach him that Shunshin no Jutsu. Right after he learned some awesome earth release techniques after all. The first steps to using earth release ninjutsu is learning how to mold and control the earth around you. Ebisu pointed to the ground under them. I want you to focus your chakra into your hands, glue it to the ground, and pick up the dirt with your hands. What's the point of this? Naruto furrowed his brow in confusion. I can pick up dirt already. With chakra, Naruto-kun. Ebisu shook his head in slight exasperation. Think. We can all simply pick up dirt, but it is soft, and falls apart. I am asking you to pick it up with your chakra and to not spill a bit of it. Almost all earth release ninjutsu uses pre-existing sources of earth in order to create techniques. More advanced users can simply create earth from their chakra. Right now, you will be learning to manipulate the earth beneath your feet, and keeping it all together with your chakra. You will be learning how to do just that for the time being. Now, no more talking. Concentrate. Naruto sighed, but obeyed, and started channeling chakra in his body. Then, he focused it into his hands, letting it channel through them for a brief moment. Satisfied and comfortable with the amount he had generated, he then placed his hands slowly onto the ground, and tried picking up some of the earth beneath him. For his troubles, Naruto's hand simply bounced off the ground and nearly smacked him back of his face. Recoiling slightly in some pain, Naruto recovered, blinking owlishly. Huh, what the hell? Ebisu folded his arms. Not enough chakra, Naruto-kun. The earth rejected it. Not enough. But I thought putting too much wouldn't be good. Of course not, but the same could be said about putting too little. Remember, this is more than learning how to utilize your elemental affinity. This is an advanced level of chakra control. You must find the right balance of chakra. This is why we were doing chakra control exercises for a week previously. Exercises you were complaining about, no less. Realizing this will be more complicated than he thought, Naruto made a familiar hand seal. Kage Bunshin no. Wait. Naruto-kun. Ebisu called out, grabbing the boy's hand before Naruto could complete his technique. He was no sensor, but he could practically feel all that build-up of chakra from Naruto. Before you start making a bunch of shadow clones, I want you to realize what using too many clones can do to your body after you dispel them. Make 2 or 3 clones. However, do not make 20. The more clones you make, the more clones dispelling at a certain time period can damage you mentally. Naruto furrowed his eyebrows, closing his eyes in frustration. Gah, only 3. I just wanna get this down so I can start learning some ninjutsu. Sides, I make a lot of clones all the time, and dispel them, and they never killed me before. Never had to worry about it. In due time, Naruto-kun. Ebisu said calmly, not allowing himself to become irritated by the boy's eagerness to push through the important part of the training without caution. I told you already, it takes a while to learn how to use one's chakra to manipulate a chakra nature. Have patience. You have a road ahead of you. Most of this will be done on your spare time. I will start you on the path, but you have to walk it. Naruto tried not to roll his eyes, sighing deeply. Fine. 3 clones tops, Ebisu-sensei. Ebisu was not very convinced. Take your fingers from behind your back, Naruto. You are not slick. Go damn it. Naruto swore under his breath. So what if he was crossing his fingers behind his back? If this was most of this to be done in his spare time, why did it matter if Naruto used all the clones he wanted to help him? Besides, just because he had a lot clones doesn't mean he would dispel all of them at once. Patience, Naruto-kun. Ebisu dug into his pockets, grabbing a white cloth. He then took his spectacles off, and wiped them clean with the cloth. Good things come with patience. I know, but I got until the end of this month to make sure Neji doesn't win. I need to find ways to beat him. The best way to learn how to do that, is to study on his source of strength. Tell me, do you know what Neji's most used tool is? Ah, man. Not more of this riddle shit. What? His mind. Naruto scoffed, remembering that one time Iruka-sensei from the Konoha Academy once said a ninja's best tool was his mind. Not in this case, Naruto-kun. The Tobekatsu Jonin smiled thinly, his eyebrow twitched in annoyance at Naruto's uncouth language. His eyes, Naruto-kun. The Byakugan. Do you know anything about the Byakugan? Not as much as I like. Naruto admitted. Scratching his cheek sheepishly, he uttered, haven't exactly found out the trick to that dojutsu thingy. Well, perhaps it's time to look up a solution, if that troubles you. Go to the library in your spare time. Ebisu watched his student's face light up with some distaste. Naruto groaned. Ah, man. The library. Studying. So boring. I'm not a book person, sensei. I figured, believe him, Ebisu did, but it is still good to once in a while read up something that you don't know so it can help you. If you are weak in one area, seek out a person who is strong in said area. Or in this case, something. Use everything as your resource. If it spares me a speech, maybe I'll go hit up the library, sometime this week. Naruto conceded, saying it in defeat. Rubbing his temples, and sighing, he bemoaned, alright. I'll do it, but I wanna get this chakra training down. Yes, you will, Naruto-kun. Knowing you, no matter what I say, you will not stop until you prevail. Ebisu chuckled wholeheartedly. Alright, let us concentrate now. Back to the exercise. Naruto saluted, a little more energetically. Yes, sir. The blonde-haired boy once again tried channeling chakra into his hands. This time, a bunch. In his excitement, he practically slammed his hands into the ground. And felt his hands, and then his arms sink. Sensei. Help. I'm sinking. I'm sinking. Ebisu stifled a peal of laughter. Naruto-kun, calm down. Simply cut the link of chakra flowing through your hands. What? Stop channeling chakra, Naruto. Simple as that, Ebisu explained again. Naruto tried to stop panicking, and stop channeling chakra into his hands. When he felt the channeling chakra in hands ceasing, his arms were completely submerged in dirt, and his face was nearly touching the ground. He immediately lifted himself and ripped his 2 limbs out of the ground, creating a small, but noticeable hole in the soil. Dirt and grime caked his arms, hands, and fingernails, but his arms were unscathed. Still, Naruto felt icky with all this crap on his limbs. Quote. Okay, I'll let my clones figure this one out while we do something else. Ebisu nodded. Probably a good choice. I will let you decide. I will give you a few minutes to find a nearby water stream and wash yourself. We shall continue training. Naruto smiled. Thanks, sensei. I'll be back. Then, the boy hopped away, moving to find his objective. Ebisu chuckled at his student's antics. Boy, was Naruto-kun quite the hassle sometimes. Jiraiya had finally made to the outskirts of Konohagakure by noon. The front gates of the village was in his vision, just a small distance out. A great part of him wanted to hit up the entertainment district of Konohagakure, and go to his favorite place in the world, the bathhouses, where the wonders and contours of the female body awaited his viewing eyes. Just thinking of it put a smile on Jiraiya's face. Alas, Sarutobi-sensei had given him the urgent call to make it back to the village. Something to do with Orochimaru and his presence in Konohagakure, which was indeed important. Who knew what Orochimaru was planning? It was no secret that the missing nin despised his former home, and if he dared stepping in the village again after a decade of being banished, then he was about to start trouble again. Among other things that were important, one thing involving his godson, and Jiraiya stopped his operations in other countries temporarily, and returned home to Hai no Kuni. To be back in his homeland was something that gave Jiraiya a small smile. Jiraiya was a rolling stone, never staying in one place for an extended amount of time. He got to see lands, meet important people, and experience things not many people did in their entire lifetime. However, he did miss the village in his time away. Being back, even for a while, would be nice. How long had it been again? 8 years? Damn, had it been that long? It had, hadn't it? He only remembered so because he saw Naruto Uzumaki jet through the forest leading outside the territory of the hidden village Konohagakure, stopping by a body of water. Nostalgia and a great underlying surface of sadness washed over him when he seen Minato's boy run around from the clearing, nearby a training ground. He had last seen the boy around when he was 4, or at the very least got a look at him before going back off to his duties given to him by the Sandaime Hokage. He took a month off from the adventuring, and visited the village to see what was going on, before go back outside the village on another adventure. Naruto probably didn't even remember his face. A damn shame too, seeing as Jiraiya was supposed to be his godfather and all. Naruto had looked like he was becoming a teen now. The growth spurt didn't apparently kick in, because he looked super short. What was Naruto doing out here? Apparently, he had some sort of grime on him, or something, and he made it to a stream. Washing his arms and hands of the brown stuff. Was he out here training or something? Jiraiya wondered to himself. Interesting. Curiosity getting the better of him, Jiraiya followed the boy back a bit, to where he met back with his teacher. He was not that very aware of his surroundings, he snorted. He made plenty of noise, and Naruto practically raced back to wherever he came from, without so much of a worry. He supposed he could not fault him. Jiraiya, after all, was a master of stealth and had decades of hiding experience over Naruto. So, he easily trailed Naruto, and followed him back. To which Jiraiya saw Ebisu, a Jonin-level shinobi, tutoring Naruto. Jiraiya wasn't very acquainted with the man, but they knew each other, at least on name and face basis. Jiraiya met the man when he was with the Sandaime Hokage once. The Jonin then asked him if he wanted to continue working on his elemental affinity, to which Naruto stated yes loudly. The Sannin whistled impressively. Not many genin type of shinobi worked with their chakra nature at a young age. Jiraiya himself didn't learn his chakra affinity at a young age like that. After all, He was one of those late bloomers. Perhaps Naruto took after his father more than his mother. Then he seen the boy use several shadow clones and his eyes widened. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu was a Jonin level technique that many Jonin couldn't make more than 3 without feeling tired. Since when the kid had access to that technique? The boy made 4, and attempted to utilize his chakra. Another shock came to him when he seen Naruto's clones place their hands from the ground and pick up pieces of the earth itself. Or attempted to anyway, as most of it fell to the ground. Naruto growled in frustration, but his clone continued to do the dirty work. Jiraiya had to chuckle a little at the little funny he made. Still, tasteless pun aside, Jiraiya pondered in the trees above about this new discovery. Doden affinity. Wasn't Minato's affinity Kaden? Or was it Futon? Come to think of it, wasn't Kushina's affinity wind and not Minato? Doesn't really matter. Jiraiya seen the boy use his clones to do the technique, meanwhile he and Ebisu continue training, and doing other things. Things like working on Naruto's taijutsu skills. It was intriguing, definitely. He realized he should have left, but he found himself staying for another 20 minutes later, watching Naruto training with his sensei. Finally done with watching his godson, Jiraiya smiled wistfully, and left the training grounds, and back to civilization in Konohagakure. It was time to do so anyway, or the Hokage would tan his hide. He had to catch up with his godson. Perhaps even give him some help with his training, seeing he was using Doden ninjutsu. But he would have to see, especially if Sarutobi-sensei had other plans for him. Jiraiya would figure it out. For now though, Naruto looked to be doing just fine right now. Yes, on the right path. Naruto was finished for the day with his training. No success was made today with how many clones his teacher made him use. Ebisu also left relatively early today, so Naruto could not continue training in other things that did not involve ninjutsu. He wanted to actually spawn 1,000 of clones, and have them all work on the Earth release exercise, but he made a promise to his teacher, and, a part of him that got him sometimes in trouble, he refused to break that promise. After hours of frustration, Naruto gave up, and decided to take a break from it all. Tomorrow would come anyway, and Naruto could spend hours attempting the technique again. Hey, I'm sure I'll get it down soon enough. Naruto grinned to himself, closing his eyes and putting his hands behind his head. Strolling inside the village's gates once again after being checked by the station Chunin there, he decided to continue wandering around, and go places. And by places, he meant ramen Ichiraku to get a bite to eat. It was around lunchtime for him. All the training had worked up a mean hungry in Naruto, and he would oblige fulfilling it. It took a few minutes, but he made it to Ichiraku, and immediately plopped down into a seat. The sound of his shuffling around as he entered the shop was enough to tip off the person behind the counter. Ayame smiled at him jovially as the young boy entered the shop. Naruto, our favorite customer. How's it going? Swell. Naruto smiled back. After some training, I thought some ramen would hit the spot right about now. The brown-haired waitress giggled, leaning forward. You would have been coming around this time, even if you weren't training. The blonde-haired boy guffawed at the older teenager's response. Ayame Ne-chan. You know me so well. So, where's Tsukijiji? Father's out taking care of some business outside the village. It's just me today. Hopefully you ain't lonely, Ne-chan. Manning one shop for the day without any help must be difficult. Naruto seen the girl waved her hands, shaking off his comment. Nah, it's good my dad is gone for the day. Everyone needs a break from the people they love. Besides, business is usually slow on Sunday afternoons anyway. I can handle it. Ayame chuckled, and straightened up, ready to take her younger friend's order. Hey, so, what's it today, Naruto? My classic miso, please. The 13-year-old pounded his fists on the counter excitedly. Ramen, ramen. Ayame laughed, holding her hands up. Okay, okay, Naruto. Settle down. One miso ramen, starting, of course. She gave one last smile to the boy before disappearing back into the kitchen. She's a cutie, isn't she? A voice rang from outside the shop. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the source of the voice. A very tall man with white, spiky and long hair, a red haori, a green kimono, and green pants entered the restaurant. Red lines adorned his face, starting from his eyes, and finishing at his jawline. He wore a friendly smile on his face, and plopped down to Naruto. Naruto gave him a neutral, analyzing look before shrugging. I haven't noticed. No. The man grinned at him. Naruto found himself not quite liking that grin. It looked vaguely perverted. She's a cutie little thing. Probably grow up to be quite the beauty. Naruto again found himself shrugging, trying to shake off that uncomfortable feeling. It sounded like the man was a pervert alright. She's not my type. Ha. Not really into girls that age, huh? Or do you, swing another way? Naruto glared slightly at the man. Ayame Ne-chan is like family to me. I don't like her like that. So shut your face, old man. The man guffawed. Settle down, kid. I'm just kidding. Although, don't think I didn't catch you not answering my other question. What other question? The man shook his head, obviously amused. He didn't bother answering Naruto's question, to which the blonde-haired Uzumaki frowned at. Naruto watched the man turn his attention to the kitchen, and yell out, "Waitress! I'd like what the brat here's having, please. One miso ramen coming up," yelled back the girl from the kitchen. Naruto harumphed. Stop bothering me, old guy. The man snorted. You know, I'm not some old guy, you know. Do you even know who I am, kid? No, and why should I care? The blonde-haired boy folded his arms. Tisk. Typical kids these days don't know what generation preceded before. I'm the great one. I'm the excellent, sublime, and awesome hero of the Second Shinobi World War. I'm the gallant one himself, I am. Gamma Senin no Jiraiya. A gasp from Ayame came out. Ayame almost dropped the soup she was holding, ignoring the cry of protest from Naruto. The young woman, in the end, got the bowl of noodle soup to Naruto shakily. She placed Naruto's food on the counter, and immediately did a deep bow. It's an honor, sir. Geez, Ayame Ne-chan. You almost spilled my ramen. Naruto took his ramen bowl and hugged it to his chest protectively. What did it do to you? Jiraiya smirked at Ayame's blatant show of reverence towards him. See, she's just a civilian and she knows more about my reputation than you, brat. The war hero snorted. Kids these days. Naruto rolled his eyes. He placed his soup back down, thanked the waitress, and cracked open the chopsticks Ayame placed on the table with his bowl of soup. So you're a war hero, huh? Big whoop. Naruto relished the man's face falling into a frown. I couldn't care less. Ayame gasped at Naruto's blatant disrespect. Naruto, please, apologize. This man is Jiraiya of the Sannin. The legendary 3 shinobi that are at the level of the Hokage himself, and powerful warriors with esteemed reputations. She turned back to the older man and bowed again. I apologize, Jiraiya-sama. Your food will be right on its way. The man waved. Take your time. The two males watched the female waitress return back into the kitchen area of the shop. Jiraiya then grinned over at Naruto. See, I'm an esteemed, powerful warrior, boy. And that impresses me, how? Naruto grinned, digging into his soup. Getting a handful of some noodles with his sticks, and slurping them up in a mighty gulp, Naruto chuckled, and started talking in the back to his friend. What impresses me more is how in the hell do you always make miso so good, Ne-chan? Some old coot doesn't faze me. Jiraiya folded his arms and growled. Old coot. Listen kid, I could kick your easily if I wanted to. In fact, I can show you now if you want. Naruto snorted. If Ayame Ne-chan said you're on the level of Sarutobi Gigi, fighting you would be stupid. You may be super strong, but you don't automatically get my respect and awe just because you're some great warrior of an old era. You want my respect? Get in line and earn it. Jiraiya looked him over for a second, almost glaring at him, before guffawing, and slapping Naruto's back in a jolly manner. The boy immediately almost choked on some food he was eating, and coughed loudly at the man's strength. Shit, this guy patted his back so hard, it almost hurt. I like you, kid. You're not so easily impressed and know what you're talking about. You got some spunk. Still, it would do you some good if you respect your elders, you know. I'm Jiraiya. What's your name, boy? Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto sputtered out, regaining some of his wits. Jiraiya smiled. Naruto, a respectable, gutsy name. Perhaps it could even be a legendary one day. Hey kid, you participating in the Chunin exams this year? Yeah, I am. The orange-clad genin nodded, wondering how the guy guessed that. How did you know? The toad sage whistled. Ooh, boy, can't remember how long has it was since I became a Chunin. Good times. Ah, then again most of those good times were also pretty bad. War and all. MMHMM. Naruto hummed, barely veiling his disinterest. He did not want to hear some old-timer wax on some of his old, glory days, stories. He was just here for the ramen. But Jiraiya did wax indeed, for almost a half hour, and while some stories were, admittedly, interesting, most were about how awesome the guy was. How arrogant was that? Naruto immediately ignored the feeling of being a hypocrite, and readied himself to leave Ramen Ichiraku. As soon as he finished his soup, he told the man an excuse about needing to be somewhere else, muttered a, thank you, and jetted out of there. Paid his bill to Ayame and left before he could get his ear talked off. Unknown to him, Jiraiya's eyes followed him out. After a lingering look, and a small chuckle, Jiraiya finished the rest of his miso ramen, thanked the waitress, and left the shop as well. He knew where next he had to go. Ebisu enjoyed the night air's pleasant wind, finishing up eating at his favorite little restaurant in town. Deciding not wanting to eat at home tonight, and treating himself to some delicious kamaboko and fried crab tonight, his stomach was very pleased. He was now off to home, to enjoy an hour of light reading, then sleeping for tomorrow, where he would continue his training of young Naruto Uzumaki. He had to admit, the training was going smoother than he first thought it would be like when he agreed to this arrangement Kakashi-san set up. Much better. Although the boy had gotten on his nerves quite a bit, and tried his patience, Naruto was starting to come around in his training. Perhaps he would be able to learn some new ninjutsu over the course of the month. The boy did need something more offensive against Neji Hyuga. Ebisu had an idea on what to teach Naruto next, but it required him to master his earth chakra. He knew how the boy worked. Once determined, it seemed like Naruto would stop at nothing but to succeed in his task. That attitude could carry him places. Soon, Naruto would be ready to learn what Ebisu wanted to teach him. Ebisu was so busy pondering, he didn't notice bumping into someone. Someone much taller than him, and someone familiar. In fact, someone quite famous. It wasn't soon until Ebisu was bowing deeply and apologizing profusely to who he rudely walked into. Ah, Jiraiya-sama. Forgive me, milord. I hope I did not ruin anything on your person. Jiraiya himself would call Ebisu's apologizing, groveling on the floor. He could swear the bandana-wearing shinobi was saying under his breath, "I am not worth." A couple of times too. The older man scratched his head in confusion. It's okay. Remembering why he approached the increasingly peculiar man, he raised his voice to get the bowing man's attention. "Hey, Ebisu-san, straighten up. I would like to have a word with you." "Yes, sir. What do you need, Jiraiya-sama?" Ebisu quickly stood tall again, giving the older man his undivided attention. Jiraiya folded his arms, already in business mode. "I see you're teaching Naruto Uzumaki. What? Is this a short affair? Coulda sworn Kakashi had that little squirt as a student." Ebisu nodded. "Ah, yes. Kakashi-kun could not teach Naruto in the month, due to needing to tend to Sasuke Uchiha for the month. Orochimaru, unfortunately, attacked him in the Chunin exams." Jiraiya hummed in comprehension. He remembered being briefed on that by Sarutobi-sensei. That damn Orochimaru got his hands on the Uchiha and gave that boy the dreaded Ten no Juin, his personally designed Juinjutsu that he branded on his victims. Or people of interest. Even to this day, that damn technique still eluded him to no end. Anko Mitarashi also had the same thing too. Poor girl had been branded with the damn seal for years now. Jiraiya grunted, ceasing his pondering of Orochimaru's Juinjutsu. "I see. Well, it seems like you are doing a good job so far. I seen a little glimpse of what you guys were doing earlier today when you two were training. I got to say, I'm impressed at the boy's progress. Good job." Ebisu blushed in embarrassment. "Thank you, milord. I am humbled by your praise. Naruto-kun is a good student, as well as one of the most driven ones I have taught in my years of teaching. It has only been 2 weeks, and Naruto-kun has gotten a good amount of progress with his Earth Release Chakra training. Yeah, I respect that. Gotta thank the Nadame Hokage for coming up with that Kage Bunshin, man. Lord know how long it took regular Joes like me or you to get the steps down for our elemental affinities." Jiraiya chuckled wistfully. "You know, Sarutobi-sensei wanted me to step in and train Naruto for the month originally, but I got kind of set back a day or two and didn't return to the village in time." Jiraiya's guffaw sounded vaguely perverted. "Habits and all. My affinity for hot springs have bitten me on my quite a few times in my life." Ebisu nodded, softly stating, "I understand." Not that he would admit it out loud, but he did share a bit of Jiraiya's habits and affinity for hot springs. "So, do you want me to back off and you teach him from here on out?" Jiraiya shook his head. "Nah. Me and Sarutobi-sensei already agreed that you are already doing a good job with him. Truth be told, I didn't have much of a plan to teach him. I might have had him sign the Toad summoning contract, helped him with his chakra control, or something else, but nothing like what you're doing with him. So, I leave the task of physically training the boy to you. I'll come back to him a little after the exams." Pausing for a second, Jiraiya reached into a pocket in his red haori, and pulled out a white scroll. "No, instead, I got some few things on a scroll I think he would like to learn. Since he's an Earth-type user, I thought it would be good to learn some jutsu in that elemental branch. That way, I made my contribution for the month. Just give to him once he's done with learning how to use his elemental chakra. These techniques are good for him too, none of these are low level." Then, he tossed the scroll over to Ebisu. Catch. The bandana-wearing Tokubetsu Jonin caught the scroll easily, and opened it to scan the techniques inside. There were a total of 6 techniques that were on the scroll. Some of these techniques Ebisu recognized, but most were foreign to him. Nevertheless, they were well detailed, and nothing Ebisu himself couldn't help Naruto with. Interestingly enough, there were some mid to high level techniques inside. Nothing too insane, although one of the techniques Jiraiya had written inside the scroll had been an A- rank. It wasn't an offensive technique, more defensive in nature. Nevertheless, it would go for a good cause. It didn't quite matter what technique Naruto would attempt, with Naruto's monstrous chakra level, it would all work out just fine. It would fit right up the boy's alley. Ebisu nodded, thinking it was a good idea, and pocketed the scroll in a free area on his person. This is a splendid idea. I will let Naruto know when the time is right. Jiraiya beamed, clapping his hands in contentment. Thanks, kid. I appreciate it. Oh, and tell that Naruto brat Gamma Senin no Jiraiya said, good luck in the exams. I'll be around and in touch. Enjoy your night, sir. You too, Jiraiya-sama. Ebisu watched the legendary ninja take his leave with a smile. Patting the scroll in a side pocket, he grinned. Yes, I think Naruto-kun will enjoy these techniques at his disposal. 2 days later, and Naruto finally got down the basics of molding earth release chakra, scooping up dirt with his chakra and not spilling a bit. Naruto whooped out a roar of triumph, saying he was ready for anything now. A happy high he was riding on, until Ebisu popped his bubble and said he was now ready to learn, part 2, of his earth chakra training. You are still quite too far from learning any sort of ninjutsu, Naruto-kun. Come on, man. I'm not finished yet. Naruto groaned, dropping the dirt. No, Naruto-kun. Ebisu grunted out. You are not finished yet. You can pick up dirt now with your chakra, without spilling it. Well done. Naruto had the decency to look embarrassed, his face heating up. It was obvious Ebisu was getting annoyed at him, the sarcastic congratulations at Naruto's achievement being a clear indication of such. Now, you must shape the dirt with your chakra. First, we will start off easy, and make a scalene triangle, as in a triangle with 3 uneven sides. Ebisu explained before Naruto gotten any more confused with the term, scalene. Naruto quickly scowled in distaste. What is this? Pottery making class? Since when are we making damn ceramics here? Why do I have to learn how to make shapes with dirt now? Ebisu stayed silent, staring at Naruto intensely through his shades. Instead of saying anything to the boy, Ebisu placed his hand on the ground, while Naruto watched in interest. Naruto watched as his teacher stood back up, after reaching down and grabbing a clump of dirt with one hand. Then Naruto watched in amazement as Ebisu morphed the dirt, effortless, into specific shapes. First the dirt morphed into a square, then a perfect orb-shaped object, and then things gotten more complex. More angles were added in, and edges gotten sharper, until Naruto seen Ebisu morph the dirt into a perfectly shaped kunai, reminiscent of a real-life kunai knife. Then, the texture of the earth in Ebisu's hand changed. Gone was the lumpy soft dirt in Ebisu's right hand, and replacing it was smooth, hardened brown stone. Ebisu then chose to spoke. This is what I'm talking about when I say shape the dirt. This is what happens when you master your earth chakra. Earth release is about manipulating the earth under you, turning it to anything you want it to be. Get a bunch of earthen material, and you can make a sky-high wall, or a barrier. Gather small material like this, and you can create makeshift weapons in the middle of a battle. Earth release is very versatile and not to be trifled with, Naruto-kun, or made a joke of. Whoa. Naruto looked in awe at the kunai in Ebisu's hand. I'm learning how to do that. Yes. Ebisu smiled thinly. First, you'll learn how to gather the material, then shape it, then change its texture from hard like this. He flexed the kunai-shaped stone in his hands, to soft like this. Another flex, and the stone had become dirt, crumbling away from Ebisu's hand. And vice versa. Kick-ass, sensei. Wish you told me that from the beginning. Naruto grinned, rubbing his hands like he was about to receive a present. Can't wait to learn that shit. HMPH. That's still far out your way. Now, do what I tell you, and stop acting like a foolish child. Naruto growled, immediately angered by the man. I'm not acting like a child. The Jonin shook his head, preparing another lecture. You're wasting your own time. If you want to become a Chunin, you need to stop blurting out things without thinking first. If you want to beat Neji, you need to learn how to accept your limits. I need you to stop questioning so much what whether or not we're doing is pointless. This exercise is vital to learn how to wield your earth chakra correctly. Without it, you will not get far in the ninjutsu department. I have put up with a lot of your antics before, Naruto, and I'm asking you cease it for the time being. You want me to teach you how to become a Chunin? Well, let me teach. Naruto fell silent as he listened to the man, who folded his arms and looked at Naruto with a frown. I will not help someone who likes to waste precious time making jokes. We have as little as 3 more weeks before the month is up, and you're still in the stage of learning how to properly use your earth chakra. Time to stop acting like a child, Naruto, and be serious for once. Naruto frowned at Ebisu's scolding, wanting to yell at the man in annoyance. He felt insulted, hurt. He was trying his damned best here to become stronger, and the guy thought he was joking around. Naruto had a few things to say to the guy. But ultimately, shaking his head, he stopped himself. No, the man was right on this one. Naruto made jokes because he was honestly frustrated with not learning fast enough. He was stressed, alright. What a stupid move to declare he would beat Neji in a month, especially when the guy was one of the best genin of this generation. He just didn't want to lose. A lot of shit was riding on this. Not just his pride and honor, but Hinata's too. She didn't deserve that beating her cousin gave her. She was a nice girl, and he beat her close to death just because he was feeling some shitty way about his family's doing. That wasn't right. Someone needed to knock some sense into that guy, and Naruto swore he would be the one to do it. Plus, it was something Naruto had to do himself, to prove himself. He wanted everyone to know that he wasn't the same failure back in the academy, that he gotten better, and for Sake, he wanted some damn respect. But it ran even deeper than that. Even now, even if his desire to become Hokage had changed a little, his other desires were still the same. He wanted to be acknowledged, to be noticed, and to be treated like an equal. He wanted to be treated like a real shinobi, not an outcast anymore. He was done with that crap. He wanted to be someone people could rely on. He wanted to be a leader. Of course, in this situation, he could admit he wasn't acting like one. He could see it now. How can you lead, when you were whining about shit not going your way every single time? Ebisu sensei was right, he was acting like a child. It was selfish, and it was wasting time. Ebisu was right again. Time was going, and he hadn't quite finished up the basics of this training yet. He had to shape up. Like this lump of dirt he was supposed to shape into a triangle. He had to shape up, and fast. Nodding silently at the man, and slumping his head in defeat, Naruto decided it was time to stop joking around and to get to work. Sighing, he muttered a small, "I'm sorry," at his teacher, before placing his hand on the ground, and summoning his chakra to his palm. Dirt in his right hand, Naruto grunted, and looked at the dirt in annoyance. Though he was more annoyed at himself than anything. Single quote. The sooner I'm done doing this dull shit, the quicker I can be doing some cool shit like Ebisu sensei. I just got to be more patient. Then he concentrated his chakra and got very lackluster results. As soon as he summoned more chakra to move the dirt in any sort of way, the dirt rejected his manipulation, and a side of it fell back onto the ground, and then another side, until the dirt that once was in Naruto's hands was back where it first came from. Naruto wanted to yell in frustration at the stupid dirt for not doing what he wanted it to do, but he curbed his, admittedly childish, anger, and instead tried concentrating again. When the same thing happened, Naruto's whole body shook, ready to explode. Can I use my shadow clones for this one, sensei? What's the limit again? Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes. 3. Sensei, Naruto droned. Ebisu nodded back, his face almost haughty, in satisfaction. Very good. You may do so. Naruto did a very fake smile back at his temporary teacher before summoning 3 shadow clones by a single hand seal. The clones silently moved to Naruto's sides, one clone on his right and one on his left. They both then placed a palm on the ground, and started working the triangle exercise with him, dirt clumping in all 3 of their hands. Hours passed by, and Naruto felt no new progress with the technique. His clones had the same bad luck, and all 3 of the boys looked sourly at the clumps of dirt they were trying to shape. It was almost time for break time, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Naruto was close to stopping until he looked at the progress his doppelgangers were making. The Naruto clone on the left currently had successfully had one side up at an angle, the left side, while trying to work at the other 2 sides of the triangle Sensei told them to make. The clone on Naruto's right side had successfully shaped the side on the right, and was trying to keep it up while making the other sides connect. An idea then popped in Naruto's head. Hey, guys, come over to me for a second. Drop your dirt. Both of the clones looked over at the original Naruto, then among themselves, before shrugging nonchalantly and stopped their chakra control exercise. Dirt dropping from their hands, they walked over to the original Naruto, ready to receive their task. Whatcha you need, Prime? I need you two to shape one side of the triangle I'm making. I'll concentrate on the last side. Ready. The 2 nodded, and placed their hands near the dirt Naruto held in his palm. Invisibly feeding it chakra, the dirt started to shift in Naruto's hands, and Naruto watched in excitement as the uneven triangle was made. Yes. We did it. A voice came from Naruto's far right, and near a tree. You finished. Curious, Ebisu took his eyes off an orange-colored book. Catching up on a good read from a distance, as Naruto trained for a few hours, Ebisu failed to see the new progress Naruto had made in his Earth release training, only hearing the boy cheer loudly from his spot on the training grounds. He pocketed his book, being seen with it would bring up much embarrassing questions from Naruto, placing it in his back pocket, and walked over to his student. You did what, Naruto-kun? Look, sensei. Me and my clones finally did it, Dadbao. We shaped it, together. Ebisu blinked owlishly. Together. Yeah, I told my clones to shape each side of the dirt, to make a triangle, and they did it. Now we're ready for the next part, right? Show me how you did it. Hey. Naruto smirked, and dropped the dirt from his hands. Then he grabbed a clump of dirt with his chakra, and told his clones to take a side and shape the dirt into the triangle again. Finally, after a few more seconds, they produced an uneven triangle once again. See, we did it, Dadbao. Ebisu looked over the triangle for a second, and then back to the happy 3 clones, before nodding. Very good. Start over now. Naruto almost fell down in shock. His clones did, and comically enough, dispelled when making contact with the hard ground. Wait. What? Why? You did not do the exercise correctly. Start over again, Naruto-kun. Ebisu explained nonchalantly. But, why? Naruto whined miserably. I thought I was supposed to make a triangle, sensei. Yes, Naruto-kun, you are supposed to make a triangle, not together with your clones. Ebisu pushed up his shades on the bridge of his nose with his middle finger. You are learning how to shape the earth by yourself, not with your clones. That defeats the purpose of this exercise. You have to learn it by yourself. Over-reliance on your shadow clones will hamper you instead of help you. The time it takes for them to shape the chakra for you will be enough time for most enemies to get in your defenses and attack you, even kill you. But, Naruto stammered out. Ebisu shook his head at the blonde boy. No, there will be no shortcuts in this. You are using your clones to help you find a way to complete the exercise, not do it for you. You still have much to do. Naruto groaned. Running his clean hands, Naruto figured out how to keep the dirt off his hands in part 1 of this stupid training, through his hair, and trying desperate to not tear it out of its roots. Fine. And one more thing. We're stopping for now. Ebisu tapped a wristwatch. It's almost 12. Naruto groaned again, this time much louder. Could have came at a better time, huh? Ebisu smiled a little at Naruto, finding his frustration slightly amusing. Do not feel too bad. After all, it is lunch. I will buy you some food. HMPH. I could do with grub right about now. Naruto rubbed his belly forlornly. All this training stress did work up a hell of an appetite. Sighing, he said, oh well. At least I can get some miso ramen in my system. I did not say I was going to buy you ramen, though. But. The man grinned, bringing out 2 white papers out of his pants pocket. After all, I do have 2 coupons for that restaurant that serve a great crab dish. Naruto groaned out for the last time. Yep. Screw today indeed. After the lunch break, Naruto found a way to do the triangle, albeit with both hands. One of his clones decided to do it another way, and when it popped, Naruto got it down as well.